All right, I'm here with Jay Thompson. Hey, Jay.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm great.
Now, you are, you were the former, was it the CEO of Zillow?
Oh, no, no,
No.
no, not even close. I was director of industry outreach for Zillow
I
for
mean, for
six
us,
and a half
it's all the
years.
same. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. But you're a contributor to Inman News, and that's how we met. And if
Yep.
agents don't have Inman, they definitely need to subscribe.
Yep.
But you're also very active in an agent safety. It's near and dear to your heart. Can you tell us a little bit more about the organization?
Sure. I'm a director of the Beverly Carter Foundation. And for those, a lot of people will probably know the name Beverly Carter. It was, gosh, I want to say 2014. Don't quote me on that date, but Beverly was a real estate broker in Arkansas. And very, very sadly and tragically, she was kidnapped and murdered when she went to show a house. So her son, Carl Carter,
Hmm.
took this tragedy and wanted to try to make some good come out of it. So he
Right.
founded the Beverly Carter Foundation, which is it's there for agent safety. We do a lot of training. Carl, especially pre-COVID, jetted all over the country, literally
Hmm.
to brokerages, associations, conferences, and spoke about agent safety because it's
It seems
obviously
like there's been a lot of this kind of crazy stuff happening, and it is like we're alone all the time as realtors.
that's the key. You know, one thing
Yeah.
the Beverly Carter Foundation is starting to do more now is not moving away from real estate agents at all, but they also focus on what's called lone worker safety because
Hmm.
there's a lot of people that work alone,
Yeah.
especially in the real estate space. Agents, appraisers,
Hmm.
inspectors, all those
Hmm.
people typically work alone.
Right.
But then there's delivery people.
Right.
There's all kinds of people that spend a significant amount of their work time alone or moving between locations, so they're alone a lot of time. And being alone obviously increases or changes certain aspects of safety. The bad guys tend to target people that are alone
Of
because
course.
they're not going to do something to somebody in a crowd. So yeah, and sadly there are way too many headlines out there that happen about
Hmm.
with incidents of, and it's not
Right.
just, I mean, Beverly Carter was the extreme, kidnapped and murdered.
Right.
There's also, assault, robbery.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, then, kind of sort of related to agent safety are the things like electronic uh, mail fraud, or, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, like wire fraud
Wire
type.
fraud, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's lots of things, there's phone things, there's all kinds of stuff that's all wrapped into the safety umbrella. But just the fact of agents being alone so much of the time just makes them, sadly, can make them
Yeah.
targets for
Exactly.
all kinds of assault, murder, rape.
What are like some of the top tips that you're finding are people are asking for, or that you're finding like people didn't realize until you were like, hey, this is a safety concern?
Sure. The things that come immediately to mind when we talk realtor safety are open houses and showings,
Sure.
because those are prime opportunities for the bad guys. So people need to really watch how they do that. If I could, honestly, if I could outlaw open houses, I would do it, because they're just, first of all, they typically don't sell the house. Now, someone's going to be out there listening, going, I've sold X number of
Right.
houses through an open house. Sure, you have. But generally speaking, they're used for the most part to generate potential buyer leads.
Hmm.
Um, and they inconvenience the seller, and they're a huge safety risk, not just for the agent's personal safety, but there's also risk
For
for
the
the
seller.
homeowner's
Yeah.
property, right?
Right.
Lots and lots of people use the opportunity to walk inside a house to case it out for a future
Hmm.
robbery, or
Right.
there's countless incidents of jewelry, firearms,
Hmm.
prescription drugs being
Hmm.
stolen right in the open house.
Right.
So that, the lesser things people, I think, don't tend to think about are there's so many opportunities, sadly, for bad people to do bad things. One of the stories I have, it's personal. I used to do, I still do, I walk around a lot. I do a lot of
Hmm.
walking. That's my primary form of exercise. And when I lived in Seattle, I was walking down a street and it was dark. I think it was 9, 10 o'clock at night ish,
Okay.
right in the middle of downtown Seattle. And I watched this young woman ahead of me. I'm behind her, maybe a third of a block. We're just both walking the same direction. She stopped at an ATM machine, and she gets out her purse, and she's kind of using her hip to hold her purse against the wall while she's putting her ATM card in the machine. And she's completely focused on that ATM machine. And I'm like, okay, if I was a bad guy, I could do whatever I wanted. I could walk up behind her and snatch her money out of her hand.
Right.
I could put her in a headlock and drag her into a car or into an alley and do untold things. She was completely oblivious to the fact that a strange man was behind her. And that those kind of situations, whether it's at an ATM machine or whether when you're unlocking a home to show it, or sitting in your car waiting for a client to show up, and your head's in your phone because you're working, and you're paying no attention. There's just so many opportunities. And I don't want to scare anybody, because overall, if you look at the statistics, there's 1.4 million realtors, and even some that are not realtors. And you know, there's 5 million homes are sold a year. So there's tons and tons of activity happening. And the actual number of assaults and robberies and murders and rapes is very low. But this is one time for you. And that's a bad thing. And it's just because there's so much increased opportunity due to the nature of a real estate agent's business. They've got to be aware and focused all the time. It's not just at the open house. It's not just showings.
It's all the time.
It's everything. It's everything you do in your life.
But I mean, safety, like personal safety in general, is important, you know, even like you said, like walking and stuff. But it is like in our business, especially the nature of our business, we'll get people that call all the time. And then so many agents will just go, they don't know who this person is. They called about a house and they just like go and show them. And it's like, okay, let's
in private, and they've never met them. They know nothing about them. The agent is probably all over the internet, so the potential bad guy knows
everything about them,
knows what they look like, knows sometimes where they live, who their kids are. You can find out so much information about somebody, and they know you. They've stalked you online, and they know everything about you, and you know nothing about them. Nothing.
Yeah, it's scary out there for sure. And it's something that, like, I mean, I guess I don't really think about it because I'm like, dang, like that's a lot of effort for someone to go through all that to like, for what? You know?
It is a lot of effort. You know, a lot of people in the Beverly Carter tragedy, a lot of people assumed that Beverly did everything wrong, that she dropped everything and met complete strangers at the house. But the reality was that those two people, as a man and a woman, they planned out this kidnapping of her in advance. They created fake emails. They had engaged with Beverly, you know, via email multiple times, all the time having this plan in the back of their head to kidnap her. They didn't plan on murdering her, but they planned to kidnap her and hold her from ransom because they thought she was rich. Just like everybody thinks every real estate agent is made out of money. When the man was arrested, it was a day or two later, the cops were shoving him in a car to take him to a hearing or something. And a reporter said, why Beverly? Why did you pick her? And the guy turns right to the camera and said, because she was a rich broker that worked alone. And she wasn't rich, but she was a broker that worked alone. But she did, as far as there's some things that we'll just never know about what happened specifically to Beverly, but she did the right things. She looked at the email addresses. She did apparently had some hesitation about showing this particular home because it wasn't in the area or the type of home that the people had told her they were interested in. You know, that she told the man, I need your wife to come with you to the showing. And he said, no problem. They were buying the house together. And then he called her apparently a little bit before the showing and said, my wife can't make it, you know, something came up, but can we like do a FaceTime or take some pictures and text her and get, you know, so they're playing along the whole time. And, you know, I'm not going to victim blame at all, because Beverly Carter was not at all at fault for what happened to her. But it's important for people to understand that she did a lot of the right things.
And it still resulted.
It still happened. And it's horrible. And that happens a lot.
It happens too often, even though, like you're saying, a percentage it's not a high percentage, but even one time is too much,
Yeah,
you know?
agents cannot cop the "well, it won't happen to me" attitude, or
Mhm,
I carry concealed weapons, so I'm safe, or
mhm.
any of these things that because nobody's 100% safe. I mean, police
Right,
officers get killed and assaulted all the time.
right.
Um, so you've just got to keep awareness is the key thing. If I have one tip for real estate agents with
Mhm,
anything to do with safety, there's something called situational awareness. And that
mhm.
is simply being in tune with what's going on around you, right? Like the young lady at the ATM machine was practicing
Right,
zero situational awareness.
right,
She should have known that there was a stranger behind her.
right,
She never should have balanced her purse between
right.
her hip
It's
and
too
the
easy to
wall.
steal.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
just put herself into so many potential situations. And honestly, as a caring human being, I should have said something to her as I walked by and said, "Hey, you might want to secure your purse and pay more attention."
but then
But I
it's
didn't.
like, did you say that because you're gonna take it from her? You know what I
Exactly. I
mean?
sound like
Like,
some kind of creep.
I'd
Right?
be
I said
like,
nothing and I kept walking by, but I've wondered since then, did something happen to her? Probably
yeah,
not. I mean, the odds are nothing happened to her that time. But if
right.
she did that once, she probably does
She
it
does
again.
it
We're
again.
we're
Yeah.
creatures of habit, and it's just, and it's, again, I don't want to make people paranoid because paranoia is not good, but that situational awareness thing, it's just, when you approach a open house, right? There's some simple, easy things you can do to help increase your odds of it being
Hmm.
safe. One,
Hmm.
have people sign in, check their IDs. And a lot of people are like, I don't want to check IDs. That freaks people out. But,
Yeah,
you have to show an ID for everything, right? You
you
have to show an
do.
ID to rent a car, to
Right,
do anything. And
right,
if someone's walking into open house, all you have to say is, our seller's asking us to check ID. It's for our safety, your safety, everybody's safety. We're not
right,
going to do anything with it. We just
right.
want to make sure you are who you are.
Who you say you are.
And
Yeah.
yes, IDs can be faked, but if you take the mindset of there's nothing I can do to stop a bad guy who's really intent on doing something, then you put yourself at even more risk, because there
Hmm.
is a lot of things you can do.
Right,
When you leave an open house, make sure that all the windows and doors are locked, because there's known instances where people come in to visit the open house, they're casing the joint for a future robbery, and they'll
right.
go unlock a bathroom window,
Hmm.
or some window in the back of the house. Then they just like, and they come back later that night, the next week, open that window, go in and steal stuff.
Right.
Uh, Tell your sellers to put their valuables away. That, things
Hmm.
like jewelry, firearms, and
Prescriptions.
prescriptions
Yeah.
are huge. Those are the top three things that people take, because it's easy.
Right, right.
Um, so do those kinds of things. Have an open house, take somebody with you, take a lender with you, and they can kind of pre-qualify people that are visiting while you're there. Take a
Like,
partner, take a husband or a wife. And
just
speaking of
anybody.
anybody, another body, because if there's two people, and you're no longer alone if there's
Alone.
someone
Right.
else there. And unfortunately, there's so many other opportunities for the bad guys. If they're like, well, there's two people at this open house, I'll just go down the
They're
road
gonna
to the other
take
one.
the
They take the easy
easiest.
way
No, that
and
makes sense.
take
Well,
advantage of that.
yeah, right, exactly. Well, if people want to learn more about agent safety and the Carter Foundation, like, you're doing a webinar on this?
I am doing a webinar with the top secrets of top selling agents group on
Mhm.
July 14th at 1 o'clock Eastern time. I know you've posted the link before.
I'll post it in for this video too, so people
And I'll
have
post it on my Facebook page. That's a 1 hour webinar where I'm going to go through a bunch of other than just situational awareness and being aware,
Just other stuff.
but it
Okay.
is huge. Go through a lot of safety tips. The Beverly Carter Foundation website at beverlycarterfoundation.org
Okay.
also has a lot of information. There's PDFs, there's open house checklists, there's safety notes. They have a wonderful newsletter that's free to subscribe to. All the PDFs are free. There's videos. If you're a broker, team owner, or association, you can invite a Beverly Carter Foundation person to come speak.
Oh, nice.
We do, rarely do we charge, I don't think anybody's ever charged to do a safety presentation. If I do safety presentations for the foundation, I do ask the organizer to, instead of paying me a speaker fee, please make a donation to the Beverly Carter Foundation. That's the other thing people can do to help. I hate to grovel for money, but the Beverly Carter Foundation, being a nonprofit organization,
Right.
they desperately need money, even if it's the price of a latte. If you can donate $5 to the Beverly Carter Foundation,
It makes
that's
a
super helpful.
difference. Yeah.
But there's lots of information on that website, and the newsletter is wonderful. So go to the webinar, you'll learn more. Go to the beverlycarterfoundation.org to learn more. But most importantly, keep safety in your head. You have to think it and practice it all the time. It's not hard. And don't freak out. Don't be, oh my God, this is a terrifying business. It's not. It's a wonderful business. But let's just make it a little bit better by keeping people safe.
I agree. And if people have questions for you, like specifically, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me is email. And I check my email pretty often, and I'm pretty good about responding to it. Someone will be going, "You never responded to my email." jaythompson.home@gmail.com.
Awesome.
And I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody has about agent safety. Because it's important. It's so important.
Yeah, but come to the webinar if you can. And you said that's the 14th of July
at 1 o'clock Eastern time.
1 o'clock Eastern. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Jay. I really appreciate you being on.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for caring about agent safety. Because if the more things like this that can happen, I do these things because if one person stops and thinks before something bad happens in it, it's all worth it.
Yeah, totally. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Jennifer.